In the dusty caves of Qumran near the Dead Sea, archaeologists in 1947 made a discovery that would shake the foundations of biblical scholarship. Among the ancient scrolls hidden for nearly 2,000 years, they found multiple copies of a text that had been lost to the Western world for over a millennium, the Book of Enoch. But this wasn't just another ancient manuscript. This was a book so controversial, so filled with disturbing visions and forbidden knowledge, that early church fathers debated whether it was divine revelation or dangerous heresy. A book that speaks of angels who abandoned heaven for earthly women, of giant offspring who terrorized humanity, and of secrets that God himself supposedly wanted hidden. Why was this book, once revered by early Christians and quoted in the New Testament itself, removed from the Bible? And what truths or dangers does it contain? The man who walked with God. The story begins with a mysterious figure from Genesis chapter 5. While the Bible devotes entire chapters to other patriarchs, Enoch receives only a few cryptic verses. Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. Unlike every other figure in that genealogy, Enoch didn't die. He was taken directly by God at age 365. This enigmatic departure sparked centuries of speculation. Who was this man so righteous that God removed him from earth before death? What did he see during his time walking with the divine? The Book of Enoch claims to answer these questions. Written sometime between the 3rd century BC and the 1st century AD, it presents itself as Enoch's own testimony, a first-person account of his journeys through heaven and hell, his conversations with angels, and his visions of humanity's past and future. But the book opens with a story that makes it immediately controversial. When angels fell. Genesis chapter 6 contains one of the Bible's most puzzling passages. The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. The Bible offers no explanation. Who were these sons of God? What were the Nephilim? The text moves on quickly to Noah and the flood, leaving readers with more questions than answers. The Book of Enoch doesn't move on. It expands this brief passage into a detailed, disturbing narrative that spans multiple chapters. According to Enoch, 200 angels called the Watchers were assigned to observe humanity. But these angels, led by one named Semjaza, became consumed with lust for human women. They made a pact. All would descend together and take wives, binding themselves to mutual guilt, so none could escape punishment alone. These fallen angels didn't just marry human women. They taught humanity forbidden knowledge. Azazel taught men to make swords and weapons of war. Amazarach taught sorcery. Barakel taught astrology. Kokabel taught the signs of the stars. They revealed secrets of metallurgy, cosmetics, enchantments, and the cutting of roots, knowledge that humanity wasn't meant to possess. The offspring of these unions were the Nephilim, giants who stood 3,000 cubits tall according to some traditions. Beings of enormous strength and appetite, the Book of Enoch describes them as monsters who consumed all the food humans could produce, then turned to devouring humanity itself, and finally began eating each other. Violence and corruption spread across the earth like a plague. The archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, witnessed this corruption and brought it before God. The response was catastrophic, the Great Flood, designed to cleanse the earth of the Nephilim and their corrupting influence. But the story doesn't end there. According to Enoch, when the Nephilim died, their spirits, being neither fully angelic nor fully human, became demons, condemned to wander the earth until the final judgment, continuing to lead humanity astray. Enoch's heavenly journey. The Book of Enoch then takes readers on a cosmic tour unlike anything else in ancient literature. Enoch describes being taken by angels through the 7 heavens, witnessing the mechanics of the universe, the chambers where snow and hail are stored, the gates through which stars pass, the paths of the sun and moon. He visits paradise and sees the tree of life. He's shown the place of punishment where fallen angels are imprisoned in darkness, awaiting final judgment. He witnesses mountains of precious stones and learns the names and functions of countless angels. Most dramatically, Enoch is brought before God's throne itself, a scene of such overwhelming glory that he falls on his face in terror. God speaks to him directly, revealing the future of humanity, the coming judgment, and the eventual triumph of righteousness. The book contains detailed apocalyptic visions, prophecies about the Messiah, descriptions of astronomical phenomena, and moral teachings that emphasize justice, righteousness, and the coming day of judgment. Early Christianity's sacred text. Here's what makes the Book of Enoch's exclusion from the Bible so fascinating. Early Christians didn't just read it, they revered it as Scripture, the New Testament. Epistle of Jude directly quotes from the Book of Enoch, citing it by name. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about them. See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone. This is a word-for-word quotation from 1 Enoch chapter 1. Early church fathers, including Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, Origen, and Clement of Alexandria, treated the Book of Enoch as inspired scripture. Tertullian argued passionately for its authenticity, noting that if Jude quoted it as prophecy, Christians should accept it as such. The book's influence on early Christian theology was profound. Its descriptions of fallen angels influenced Christian demonology. Its apocalyptic visions shaped expectations of the end times. Its emphasis on a coming Messiah, who would judge the wicked, resonated with Christian beliefs about Christ's return. For the first 3 centuries of Christianity, the Book of Enoch was widely read, quoted, and considered authoritative by many believers. So what changed? The Great Rejection. In the 4th century, as Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, church authorities began standardizing doctrine and establishing an official biblical canon. The Book of Enoch faced increasing scrutiny. Several factors led to its rejection. First, questions about authorship. Scholars recognized that the book couldn't have been literally written by the pre-flood patriarch Enoch. It was clearly composed much later, probably by multiple authors over several centuries. This pseudepigraphal nature, claiming to be written by an ancient figure, made church authorities uncomfortable. Second, theological concerns. The book's detailed descriptions of angels having physical relations with humans troubled many theologians. Its cosmology, with multiple heavens and complex angel hierarchies, seemed to contradict simpler biblical descriptions. Some worried it gave too much power and attention to angels, potentially encouraging angel worship. Third, the text's focus on determinism and predestination conflicted with developing Christian doctrines about free will and grace. By the 5th century, prominent figures like Jerome and Augustine explicitly rejected the Book of Enoch's canonicity. Jerome argued that the quotation in Jude didn't necessarily validate the entire book, just as Paul quoted pagan poets without endorsing paganism. The book gradually disappeared from Western Christianity. By the Middle Ages, it existed only in fragments and quotations. Most Christians had never heard of it. But in the highlands of Ethiopia, something remarkable was happening. Ethiopia's sacred treasure. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church never abandoned the Book of Enoch. They preserved it in Ge'ez, the ancient Ethiopian language, as part of their biblical canon. For Ethiopian Christians, it wasn't a controversial apocryphal text. It was simply part of the Bible. Read in churches alongside Genesis and Psalms. Ethiopian monks carefully copied the text through the centuries, preserving it when it had been lost everywhere else. They maintain that the book contained genuine revelation, that its teachings about angels and judgment were essential to understanding God's plan. In 1773, Scottish explorer James Bruce traveled to Ethiopia and obtained 3 copies of the Book of Enoch in Ge'ez. He brought them back to Europe, where scholars were astonished to discover this lost text still existed in complete form. The discovery sparked renewed interest. Translations into English appeared in the 19th century, making the text accessible to Western readers for the first time in over 1,000 years. Then came the Dead Sea Scrolls discovery in 1947. Among the hundreds of manuscripts Found in those caves were multiple copies of the Book of Enoch in Aramaic, the language Jesus spoke. These copies dated to between 200 BC and 50 AD, proving the book's antiquity and its importance to Jewish communities in the Second Temple period. The scrolls confirmed what Ethiopian Christians had maintained all along. The Book of Enoch was an ancient, significant text that had deeply influenced religious thought. The question that remains today: the Book of Enoch occupies a strange position. It's not in Catholic or Protestant Bibles, yet it's quoted in the New Testament. It was rejected by church authorities, yet it profoundly influenced early Christian theology. It was lost for a millennium, yet it was preserved as sacred scripture by millions of Ethiopian Christians. Modern scholars recognize its historical importance for understanding Second Temple Judaism and early Christianity. Its themes, fallen angels, apocalyptic judgment, cosmic warfare between good and evil, echo throughout later religious literature and popular culture. But the question remains: was the Book of Enoch too controversial for the Bible? Or did the Bible become too narrow to contain it? Perhaps the answer lies not in whether the text is true in a literal sense, but in what it reveals about humanity's eternal questions. Why does evil exist? Where do demons come from? What happens when divine beings interact with the mortal world? How will justice ultimately prevail? The Book of Enoch offers answers, disturbing, fascinating, and unforgettable answers. Whether those answers are divine revelation or human imagination, they've captivated readers for over 2,000 years. And in Ethiopia, they're still reading it as scripture, just as their ancestors have for millennia. A reminder that what seems controversial in one tradition may be sacred truth in another. The book that was too controversial for the Bible survives, whispering its ancient secrets to anyone willing to listen.